It was funny when Mark called and said, told me about the summit today and invited come and speak. And then he said, come and introduce yourself to the insurance industry. And so it's fantastic how kind of everything comes full circle. As some of you may know, that I used to work at Claude Fast, so used to putting on these types of summits and seeing a lot of you throughout not just the state of Florida, but all the NAIC meetings and all of the travels across the state. So it is great to actually this is my first official speech. So it's great to be at an insurance industry event. So for just kind of background and catching up for those who I haven't seen in a few years, so I was at Claude Fast for 5 years, and then 2 years ago started my own firm where I was working up in Tallahassee on issues like school board issues and education, and as well for Florida Children's First, which is a nonprofit organization for children, and then also for the expansion of medical marijuana here in our state. So everybody ever wants to talk about the cannabis industry and insurance and the impact of that, not only on life and health, but also the P&C side of things. I can talk about that all day long. But really, it's such a pleasure to be here today, that we see as obviously a member of the cabinet. We have the appointment power with the rest of the four members, not only on the Office of Insurance Regulation, but the Office of Financial Regulation. And it really is an opportunity for, now you have another individual who is on the cabinet who understands the issues that we face on an everyday basis and the things that are happening throughout our state, issues that we all have been tackling for a long time, the fraud that goes on throughout the state. We do have a consumer component to this office. That was kind of one of the best things that I had in front of me and challenges as I was traveling the state. Not only are people asking me, wait, agriculture commissioner, what does a good Jewish girl from Miami doing running for ag commissioner? But more importantly, why should they matter? Why should people hear and care about voting for this position? And didn't understand that there's an entire part of this job that is all the consumer services, so that we deal with all types of fraud, not only in the gas station pumps and fitness centers, but we see fraud every single day in the insurance world. And so these are definitely things that we could tackle as a consumer service advocate. So definitely looking forward to working with the insurance industry and tackling some of those things, being another voice in the cabinet who understands them as we go through dealing with AOB and all the things I know that so many of us in here have been challenged with and trying to fix over the years. But really, I'm just looking forward to being a voice up in Tallahassee. It is definitely a whirlwind. Definitely being the head of the Democratic Party is not something I necessarily ran for. But I am definitely honored to be part of it. And as so many of you know, I have put myself out there as somebody who's always worked on both sides of the aisle. I'm somebody who, I don't care if you're a Democrat, I don't care if you're a Republican, if you're coming to the table with good ideas, with good initiatives, then you're welcomed there. And so I bring that to knowing that I have many challenges as the only Democrat in the cabinet with a very Republican legislature, but I look forward to bringing peace and stability up in Tallahassee and making sure that we have a voice on both sides. So I'm really just excited to be here today, and but I will happily take questions. I know that wasn't part of the routine, Mark, but if anybody would like to kind of ask questions or where I see the state of Florida in the next 4 years, I'll be happy to answer any of them. Lisa. Yeah, the reality is that there's still lawsuits that are even still going on today. And I know I've spoken to a lot of leadership on both the House and the Senate. We need to fix the program. And not only is we have 14 license holders here in the state, which also limits competition, which means that it limits the amount that the products can be reduced. Patient access is still a significant issue. A lot of our doctors are not getting onto the registry because it is so prescriptive in nature, and so they're not wanting to go on there. So we really need to do a lot of reshuffling of the organizations and allowing people to get in at different levels. You know, that we don't have enough product to be grown here in our state. You know, with the 14 license holders, there's just not enough growing. And so then you have the problems with the caps on the dispensaries in each of our counties and our cities, and that needs to change, because then again, you're not putting the dispensaries into the rural communities. You're not putting them into the underpopulated areas. So again, you're not having an access to it. And then as we start going into the conversation of legalization, I mean, that is going to be an inevitable conversation. We're seeing that happening all over the country. The conversations are happening in DC. And then where are we? And I know that that's where workers' comp comes in, and starting to go through some of the insurance issues on workers' comp. And on the other insurance side of things is, yes, PNC, because it's not covered by crop insurance. And so where do we start kind of building in these things, and where employment issues and theft of the stores, and you know, a lot of our insurance companies are not covering these, and so they're having to go to the surplus marketplace in order to find these. Insurance rates are then sky high, and so they can't reduce the price. So we are going to have to go more into a free marketplace in order to start regulating this and starting to you know, try to get rid of the bottlenecking that's happening in our state. And then we obviously have a banking issue. And so I know that firsthand. And we need to stabilize that too, because in order for us to be collecting taxes, in order for it to be safer for our patients and for our doctors and for the license holders, we need to make sure that they're having a place to bank. Because without a place to bank, they're carrying lots of cash on them. So I think these are conversations that need to happen. And I talk a lot too that we are going to also start going into hemp here in our state. You know, the Farm Bill is positioned to pass this month. And with that said, part of the Farm Bill says the Department of Agriculture in a given state can create a hemp program. So that will definitely be in my order of business to take care of in the beginning part of 2019. So there's going to be having to be an expansion of the marketplace, and the 14 vertically licensed holders they're not diverse in both in gender and race and background, and so there needs to be an expansion, and then you create better R&D and you better product lines and more expansion. Hi, John. You're right. I mean, flood insurance, I mean, this is something, again, that we've all been tackling for so long, is making sure that people understand that their policies don't cover and they need to get external, you know, insurance. And as we know, too, we have sea level rising, and there is climate change and things that are happening across our state. And so we know that more and more people are going to be moving inland, and a lot of, you know, flood insurance is going to need to be conversations, because the maps are, you know, we can't rely on the maps. And so we really need to be getting people attuned to this, because you're absolutely right, because people think of flood insurance, they think of only needing it for hurricane purposes, and not that the middle of the state, and when Lake Okeechobee, you know, the dikes are released and water is out there, they flood. And so people are not taking that into consideration, but I absolutely agree that we need to be educating our citizens, and as that's part of the climate change conversations that need to be occurring, how we're safeguarding our state on the sea level rising issues. But I do see that as a consumer issue, and hope to work with the industry on making sure that there are separate aspects of my office that is dedicated to helping for educational purposes on this. Hi. Yes, I do. The reality is that the entire consumer portion of my office has not received the right attention. So I've already planned on having an entire deputy commissioner of consumer services, and so it's going to elevate that entire position to make sure that, because this is just one example, but I can tell you as I traveled the entire state talking to consumers and to individuals, I was hearing this all the time, not just on auto glass, but I was hearing it from all types of issues, from auto repair shops, from the fraud at the gas station pumps, and from the do not call lists. So we were hearing these consumer complaints that were happening all across our state, and there was not necessarily a course of action for them to go through. So that's definitely one of the things that I will be beefing up in the department, is the consumer component of it, and making sure that we are more visible, making sure we are more accessible, and that we are out there. So we're going to be doing a lot more outreach into our communities, and knowing that there's a consumer protection involved in all of this, and that we are going to be out there and making sure that all the consumer complaints come to us. We have more investigators, we have more response time, and make sure that we are cracking down on the people across our state who are committing these frauds, because it's costing taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars a year on all the fraud that is happening across our state, and it is our obligation to stop that. I have one too.
It's not pending, it's active.
When does it expire, Mark? What's the expiration date on it?
Oh. Yeah. Oh, 2021.
Oh. I do, because I understand them. And, I have said too, because everybody says, while I, don't have a veto vote, I'm not the CFO, but I certainly will be more active on asking questions, on making sure that what is happening in the OIR, that we have a communication that's going on between them, and OFR too, because again, I'm going to be asking lots of questions on the banking side, on dealing with at least the cannabis industry. But I do believe that, because you also have a unique thing this year, you have 3 attorneys that is on the cabinet. That is also a first time that's happened between myself, Ms. Moody, and Governor-elect DeSantis, all 3 H&K alumni. But you have 3 attorneys on there, and so we come with a different perspective too of consumer protections and involvement in types of regulatory industries that you may not have seen in previous years. So certainly there will be some more active involvement in conversations, and it's just kind of our nature of being an attorney that you want to have a constant dialogue and debate. I think that you will see more on the cabinet meetings. All right, Mark.
Set of issues that you're responsible for as agricultural commissioner, kind of your lane. But now you're the highest ranking elected Democrat in the state of Florida, and there's these, I guess, major policy, political issues that are discussed in another lane that's not your ag commissioner lane. How are you gonna operate? Are you gonna get over here and start talking about affordable health care, which is, I guess you could say, you're involved with nutrition issues as ag commissioner, but it's not health care issues. So curious as to how you see yourself positioning as the leader of the Democratic Party versus ag commissioner.
That's going to be tricky. It certainly is, because I have been, as during the campaign, I stuck to very simple aspects of my lane, and I made sure that I didn't go outside of things that I was not going to oversee. And of course, and it's not just the head of the Democratic Party here in the state of Florida, but we have a presidential election. And so we have, we are in the bids in Miami to having the Democratic National Convention in Miami. So I am in a unique position, not only as the head of the party here in the state, but in a swing state in a presidential election year. We'll be getting a lot of inquiries and a lot of questions about my positions on other things that are outside the Department of Ag. And I am somebody who, I choose my words wisely. I also don't like that there's a reason why there's legislators, and would like to help steer our legislative delegation on issues, but certainly am not going to be out front and vocal on everything, because I think that's irresponsible too. Because as the leader of the party, when I talk, I want to make sure that it's not just on everything, and that when I do have an opinion and something, that it's more valued because I'm not talking on everything, and I'm not just going out there and throwing bombs just because I happen to be on the minority party. That's never been my philosophy. That's not how I operate. And so I look forward to bringing the rest of the congressional delegation, the House, the Senate leadership, and really being a united front on a lot of issues. And they will be the ones, especially on the legislative stuff, going out there and talking about the broad range of issues. When, of course, there's things that affect humans in a general sense, and as a member of the cabinet and as somebody who is a leader in our state, obviously if I believe that there's something morally going wrong in our state on some issues, I'm going to be vocal. I also am still, even though I'm agriculture commissioner, I am the children in the foster care system and education are near and dear to my heart. So those are going to be things I'm still going to be vocal on just because they're now personal in nature. But for the broader stroke issues, I'm going to be very selective on what I say and when I say it and to who I say it, because I know that I will be under a microscope like no one's ever seen in a very long time. And so I will take that responsibility very seriously, and will try to stay in the lane as much as possible. Well, if there's no other questions, I'm delighted to be here today and looking forward to seeing more of you in Tallahassee or a future insurance commission, future insurance summits. And really, thank you, Mark, for inviting me today. And I look forward to serving you all well.
Thank you. Okay, no long speeches. Thank you all for sticking it out, staying with us, and I appreciate it. We will be doing this next year in the fall. Don't exactly know when, but probably in the month of November again. Hope to see you soon, and have a great holiday season. Bye-bye.